Hello, this video is for IXL Activity A1.D.3. It is titled Percent Word Problems. The 3-character code for this activity is Bravo Lima Whiskey. Alright, so our question asked 20 out of the 50 magazines at the bookstore are women's magazines. What percent of the magazines at the bookstore are women's magazines? So they want us to write our answer using a percent sign. So we need to find out what percent 20 out of 50 is. So let's go ahead and write this as a ratio. And we're going to use it, set this ratio up using a fraction bar. So we're going to write this as 20 out of 50. And remember, we can write this as a ratio because the numerator represents the part and the denominator down here represents the whole. So we can always set up ratios in parts and wholes, where the numerator represents a part of a whole group, and then the denominator shows the value of the entire group. So in this case, we're talking about a total of 50 magazines. That's the whole group. And the part that we're talking about are the ones that are women's magazines, and we see that 20 of the 50 books at the bookstore are women's magazines. So we need 20 over 50. Now the nice thing about a fraction is that it is a division problem, so we can go ahead and divide 20 divided by 50, and if you do that on your calculator, 20 divided by 50, and I already know what the answer is without really using it, but calculator is going to come up with 0.4. Now, we've changed decimals over to percentages before, so we need to move the decimal over 2 places, right? And then throw a percent sign on the end, so we end up with 40%. So 20 out of 50 is equal to 40%. So in this activity, we're going to be using this concept of using a ratio of parts to wholes, changing it over to a decimal, changing that decimal over to a percentage, and then providing our answer in the form of a percentage. Let's look at the next question. Nellie bought cupcakes for her sister's birthday. 24 out of the 80 cupcakes had sprinkles on top. What percentage of the cupcakes had sprinkles? So in this case, we want to remember parts over wholes. The part's going to be our numerator, and the whole is going to be our denominator. And the part is the part that we're considering, which in this case is 24 of them had sprinkles. The whole is the total number of cupcakes. There are 80 cupcakes total. So whenever I do 24, divide that by 80, that's going to give me 0.3. So move my decimal over 2 places, throw a 0 on the end. So I'm going to have 30%. So 30% of the 80 cupcakes had sprinkles on them. Sometimes we're going to have to add some numbers together. Okay, so let's go ahead and read, and we're going to get those numbers from a table or from a graph. In this case, we have a table. So Greenville University offers 6 applied majors and monitors the number of students in each. What percent of the students applied for majors? What percent of the students in applied majors are majoring in computer science, architecture, or civil engineering? So our part is going to be the sum of these 3 categories. So in this case, computer science, we're going to have we need to add 440 plus, and architecture is 290 plus, and then civil engineering is 120, and that is our part, right? Now our denominator here is going to be the total of all of these. So in that case, we're going to do 20 plus 440 plus 290 plus 120 plus 330. Guess I should give myself some more room here. Get rid of that equal sign. Plus 50. And then we would get a total where we have a total here of the part and a total here of the whole. And then we would divide to get a decimal. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use a graphing calculator for this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my graphing calculator here. And let's enter all of that in. Let's see how we can do this a little bit easier without writing all of that out. I guess I can't see the other one. What's that other one over there? It's computer science. So it's this one, architecture, and civil engineering. Oh, the three right in the middle here. All right, so these three here, that's the part. Then the whole is going to be the sum of everything here. So let's go ahead and I'll pull my calculator back. And remember, we want to use parentheses to tell it first add all the numbers in the numerator, add all the numbers in the denominator, and then do the division. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use parentheses, and now I'm going to enter in the values for the numerator, that is to say the part. That'd be computer science, architecture, civil engineering. So 440 plus 290 plus 120 and hit parentheses. So this is going to, I got too many fours in there. Let's go back. It's just clear. Okay, parentheses, 44, come on. It's really sensitive, I guess. 440 plus 290 plus 120. All right, always look and make sure that what you wanted to type shows up in the screen there. That's the sum of the three categories that are the part that we're talking about, right? Because what percent? So that's our part. That's our numerator. So now we're going to go ahead and hit the divide sign because that's going to be the numerator and the fraction. Now let's give it a parenthesis so that we can tell it to add everything for the denominator. So we just want to go through, add all of these values. So 20 plus 440. Got to go easy on those fours, right? Let's throw extras in. Plus 290. Plus the next value is 120. Plus the next value is 330. Plus the final value, which is 50. Close the parentheses. So now if we can see all this, we have this problem back here, right? This problem right here, I just entered into my calculator and we can see it right here on the screen here. So let's go ahead and hit enter and it gives us 0.68. So we know that all this is going to equal 0.68. Move that decimal over 2 places. We would end up with 68, throw a percent sign on the end. And so we see that 68% of the applied majors that they're monitoring are computer science, architecture, or civil engineering. The students at Lisa School voted for a new school color. 140 students voted for purple. And the other 735 students voted for red. What percentage of the students voted for purple? Well, 140 voted for purple, right? So that's the part. 140, that's what we're talking about. Now, how many students are there total? Now, some people might get in a hurry and think it's 735. They just see the 140, the 735, divide 140 by 735, get a decimal, move it, throw the percent sign in the end. There's your answer. But be careful, because in this case, 140 voted for purple, and the other 735 voted for red. So the whole group is 140 plus 735. So in this case, if we have 140 over 735 plus 140 is 875 maybe. 140 plus 735. 875 indeed it is. 875. Now do 140. And we're going to divide that by the 875 and we'll get 0.16. So as a percent, it's going to be 16%. I use this example here because it's a good one. Be careful of realizing that in the whole, sometimes the way they word it, you're going to have to add numbers together to find out what your denominator should be. On the next one, in a recent election at Thornton University, 3 people ran for student body president. So here's our election results. The candidates are Kendrick, Carter, and Gary. These are how many votes they received. What percent of votes were for Kendrick? So we're talking about for Kendrick right here. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and pull my graphing calculator back. And let's go ahead and clear this out. Now, our numerator is the part that we're talking about. We want to know about Kendrick. So there's no adding to do there. We'll just go ahead and do 240. Now we do want to tell the calculator to add all of the values in our denominator. And remember, the denominator represents the total number of votes in this case. So we want to add all these values together. So 240 plus 490 plus 270. Close the parentheses. Now it's telling your calculator to divide 240 by the sum of all these values here. And we got those values from the column votes here. Let's go ahead and hit enter, and we get 0.24. So 0.24, make that a percent. We get 24%. Moving that decimal over 2 places to the right and throw a percent sign on the end. 24%. The next one, U.S. flag vessel is a government or commercial boat registered in the United States. Levi, who owns a large fishing operation, looked up data on U.S. flag vessels of different types. So he sees this chart here, and he's wondering what percent of flag vessels are dry cargo boats. So dry cargo boats right here. So we see that this is 30,000. 30,000. But notice that all these are thousands, right? So let's make this a little easier. Let's just deal with the number 30. Let's kind of rule out, just focus on the 30 there. So we're going to have 30. That's the part, right? Dry cargo boats, that's what it's asking about. Now, the denominator is going to represent all the boats total. So in this case, we're going to rule out this. So we have 10 here and 10 here. So we're going to end up with 10 plus 30 plus 10. And we end up with 30 over 10 plus 10 plus 30 is going to be 50. And just to make this a little easier, I know I can make an equivalent fraction of 60 over 100 here. So I know that if I were to divide 30 by 50, I would get 0.6. And this is going to equal 60%. So in this case, the answer is 60%. Next one, an arborist examined trees. An arborist, like here, Arbor Day, where everyone goes out and plants trees. So somebody who studies trees is an arborist. So an arborist examined trees in an orchard to see if they were infected with a virus. The arborist counted 748 infected trees and 102 healthy trees. What percent of the trees in the orchard were infected? So we're looking at the ones that are infected, right? So that's 748 is our part. Now our whole, we're going to have to add those because 748 were infected, 102 were not. So the whole number that we're looking for is 748 plus 102, and that'd be 748 over 748, 848 plus 2 more is 850. Now I'm not going to mental math that one in my head, so I'm going to go ahead and do 748, and I'm going to divide that by 850 because every fraction is a division problem. That's going to give me 0.88. and that is going to equal 88%. So our answer here on this one is 88%. Dustin, who has 6 different fruit trees growing in his yard, kept track of how many pieces of fruit he picked this year. So, wow, he picked a lot of fruit, didn't he? So, what percent of the pieces of fruit picked were persimmons, right here, lemons, right here, or pears? Pears, right here. Oh, okay, so it's all these last ones here, right? And so our part is going to be lemons plus pears plus persimmons divided by the total of all of them. They aren't tens, but we could rule that out, but we won't go there. I was thinking we could just do like, call this 10, we could call 1, 50, we could call 5, but we'll go ahead and we'll just keep them as their regular numbers, not like canceling out all the zeros in the previous one. So let's go ahead and we'll clear that out. Let's do our numerator. So let's put it in parentheses. We want it to add all of the parts that are part of the part, right? So we're talking about lemons, pears, persimmons. So we want to add together values of 90 for the lemons. We want to add to that the value of 20 for the pears. And we want to add the value of 50 for the persimmons. and we'll put that in parentheses. That's going to be the part that we're talking about. We want to divide that by the sum of all of the fruits, right? The total of all the fruits. So plums is going to be 100. And we're going to add to that oranges, which is 80. Add to that apples, which is 50. Add to that lemons, which is 90. And pears, which is 20. And persimmons, which is 50. Put that in parentheses. Don't forget to close off your parentheses there. Go ahead and tell it to calculate it for it. And it comes up with this 0.4102. Let's just do the first four numbers. 0.4102. 0.4102. So 0.4102. Now, we make this a percent with a decimal over two places. We'd end up with 41.02%. And our instructions say to round our answer to the nearest percent, right? So the nearest percent is going to be this place value here, the ones place. So we look to the right of the ones place. We see this is a 0. So 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. So this 1 is going to stay a 1. And we're just going to have 41%. Next question. Alex, U.S. history teacher, showed how old the various U.S. presidents were when they were elected. We have the table here. We have the age ranges on the left and the number of presidents that were in those age ranges on the right. What percent of presidents were 50 to 54? So we're talking about this one right here. So we want 13 is the part. Now we want to divide that by the sum of everything that we have here. So let's just add all these together. 2 plus 7 is 9. Let's do the ones. We'll just do the ones column, right? So 7 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus 2 more is 14, plus 7 more is 21, plus 3 more is 24. Carry the 2. 2, 3, 4 should be 44, right? Double check that. 9 plus 13 is 22, 32, 34, 34 plus 10, 44. Yep, good to go. Always double check your math. Make sure you got that correct. So let's do 13 divided by 44. So not 133, Mr. T. 13 divided by 44. And I'm going to get a value of 0.2954. 2954. So let's go ahead and write this as a percent. Move the decimal over two places. We'll have 29.54%. The directions say to round to the nearest percent, so we run around to the ones place here. So we look to the right, and this is a 5, so that 9 is going to bump up, which means that 29 is going to become 30. So we round up to the nearest percent of 30%. All right. And this is my final question here. And whenever I did this activity, I only came across one question that was like this. So I went ahead and included it. Notice that all of our other questions were give a percentage, right? However, this question, they give us a percentage, but we need to find a percentage of that number. So here, Ryan's Diner offers its clients a choice of regular and diet soda. Last night, the diner served 25 sodas in all, 72% which were regular. How many regular sodas did the diner serve? So they served 72% of 25. So 72% of 25 is what we're looking for. Okay. Well, let's do 72 as a decimal. Or 72% as a decimal. So change that to a decimal, we get 7.2. Of means to multiply. We're going to multiply that times 25. And that's going to give us our value of X, or that is to say the number of regular sodas. So if on my calculator, I'm going to put 0.72, I'm going to multiply that times 25, and I'm going to get X is going to equal 18. So in this case, it's 18 sodas. So if you get a question like this, my advice is to go ahead, change the percentage to a decimal. Realize that the word of means to multiply, and so you're going to multiply that percentage as a decimal times whatever it is that you're trying to find, whatever number it is that you're trying to find that certain particular percentage of. All right. So that concludes all of my examples for IXL A1.D.3 Percent word problems, and good luck with your activity.